Welcome to the Caregiver Relief Podcast, where we bring you real conversations to support caregivers and families navigating the challenges of health, aging, and wellness. Today, I'm joined once again by Dr. Debra Muth, founder and CEO of Serenity Healthcare Center, host of Let's Talk Wellness Now podcast, and an author of Seeing at Last: Uncovering Women's Misdiagnosis and Reclaiming Health. Dr. Deb is a pioneer in women's health, functional medicine, and regenerative therapies. In our last conversation, we explored how functional medicine provides a holistic approach to chronic illness. This time, we're diving deeper into one of the most overlooked influences on our physical and emotional health: our hormones. Today, we'll talk about hormonal imbalances can fuel chronic illness, impact mood, energy, and weight, and what you can do to restore balance naturally. Whether you're a woman struggling with fatigue, brain fog, or inflammation, or a caregiver supporting someone else who is, this discussion will empower you with practical tools and hope for healing. This episode is sponsored by myvitalvault.net, your all-in-one life organizer for aging adults and caregivers. It's designed to help you securely store your essential legal, medical, and emergency information in one easy-to-access place. Because when a crisis hits, being prepared can make all the difference. Join our Caregiver Relief community, a warm, welcoming space where you can connect with other caregivers, ask questions, share stories, and find support from people who truly understand. Visit community.caregiverrelief.com to join now, because caregiving is one of the hardest and most meaningful things you'll ever do, and no one should have to do it alone. And if this episode speaks to you, please take a moment to like, share, or comment. Every click helps us reach more caregivers who need encouragement, resources, and hope. Deb, thank you so much, and welcome back to Caregiver Relief Podcast.
Oh, thank you, Diane. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm glad we're having this conversation about hormones. It's one of the most misunderstood and overlooked aspects of chronic illness or just aging in general, especially for women. And it is my most favorite topic to talk about. I love talking about hormones.
Well, I laugh because the last time we did a podcast and we're talking about functional medicine, you were so excited, you lit up. And I had to contact you, say, could you do another one? Let's talk about those hormones.
Yes.
And as a 72-year-old postmenopausal female, I love to hear about this. And I really want to let my listeners know, Dr. Deb, that functional medicine is the last real frontier of our healthcare delivery system. You're the doctors that look at a holistic approach. You're the doctors that take time for patients when those covered by Medicare are treated within 15 minutes. You get a 15-minute appointment. And so I'm really excited to have you back.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we get started, can you share what first inspired your focus on hormones and their connections to overall health?
Yeah. I started in hormones over 25 years ago. When I was a young nurse, I had the luxury of working with a fertility specialist, and we manipulated hormones to help women get pregnant and help sustain pregnancy. And I got to be at the forefront of that and really see how hormones played a role in just that in general. And as I learned more and more about hormones, I just loved it. Like it was every part of a woman's being. And so that's where I really got my spark and understanding of it all, and went on to become a women's health nurse practitioner. And from that very time, this was before 2000, I was an advocate for women and using hormone replacement therapy, using natural hormone replacement therapy, and really just looking at our bodies as a whole and saying, yes, our hormones are supposed to be optimized. And Yes, we can use hormones to prevent us from getting pregnant. Everybody's happy about that. But there's also that piece of us saying, okay, when we're done with that part of our lives, or when that part, we don't have to worry about that anymore, what do we do to fix the hormones that got messed up from us doing that? And unfortunately, today, what do we do about fixing the hormones that have been messed up because of the environment, because of all of these environmental estrogens that are around us, all the EMF, all the chemicals, the disruptors that have really taken a huge toll on our hormones? And nobody wants to talk about that. They just want to talk about, oh, well, it's just part of aging. And it's really not. It's really becoming a big problem now.
It really is. I'm hearing it from my clients a lot. Many people think of hormones only in terms of menopause or
Yeah.
reproductive health, but they affect every system in our body. Can you explain how hormones truly influence our physical and emotional well-being?
Absolutely. So hormones are really the messengers, right? And when no one's listening to them, the body doesn't have a voice anymore. And so we have what's called hormone receptors in every single part of our body. And the best way to describe this is when we're in menopause, if a woman had a hysterectomy, if she had her uterus removed, the doctors will tell her she no longer has to use progesterone if she wants to use estrogen, which is the craziest thought to me because we had progesterone from our entire life. And now all of a sudden, because we don't have this one organ, somehow we don't need this anymore. And that doesn't make any sense at all. And so these hormone messengers go to different parts of our bodies and they tag on to every cell. So every cell that makes our blood vessels, makes our nervous system, makes our brain function, makes us who we are, how we feel, how we think, how we sleep, how we regulate pain. All of that is necessary to have the right amount of hormones sending signals where they need to. We know there's plenty of research out there that shows that as a woman ages and loses estrogen, her brain function declines. And there is a higher incidence of Alzheimer's disease and dementia when women don't supplement with estrogen after menopause. And neurological disease, MS, Parkinson's, all of those kinds of things are impacted when we're not optimizing our hormones.
I have a question. I have a lot of girlfriends that have gone through menopause or are going through menopause
Mhm.
are now getting testosterone.
Yes.
That's really a big thing here, and
It's a huge thing.
I that wasn't available to me. I'm 72
Mhm.
as it is now. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So much like men have testosterone, they also have estrogen and progesterone, and women do too. We have estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, pregnenolone, cortisol. We all have the same hormones. It's just at different levels, right? And
Mhm.
so as a woman ages, she loses testosterone like she uses estrogen and progesterone. And we used to think that as a woman ages, she just made a lot more testosterone. And for some women, that is true. But most women, they lose their testosterone. And testosterone is extremely protective for us. So it is really great at building bone. It's very safe and effective and helps prevent breast cancer. There's been some studies done that shows if women have higher levels of testosterone, they have lower incidences of breast cancer. Of course, it's great for sex and libido and all of that. More importantly, though, our muscle building, our muscle mass, our metabolism, our bone health, our motivation, drive, energy, creativity, all of that is driven by testosterone. And so when we have the right amount, we feel great. When we try to push our levels much like a man, that's not such a great thing. And there are a lot of people out there doing that these days with pellets and injections. And that's going to give women some side effects eventually that they don't like. And it's going to be a big challenge when they have to try to get that excess testosterone out of their bodies. So you want to be careful and dose physiologically to women, not try to have us be men because we're not men.
Yes. I have a girlfriend, a good friend who is getting the testosterone, and she's getting all of this facial hair, and
Yes.
her her and her sister have a pact that when they're in nursing homes, they have to shave each other's when the other one can't. I
Yes.
You have to make fun of it, and, I mean, what else can you do?
Absolutely, we do. And one of the things I see quite often when women get overdosed with testosterone is a deepening of their voice. And once that occurs, it never resolves. Like once your voice deepens as a result of using too much testosterone, it will not go back to the way it was, even if we get the testosterone back in line with where it should be. So we do have to be really cautious about these hormones that we're giving and how much we're giving. And I want to encourage your listeners, there's a lot of Instagram and TikTok people out there talking about hormones, and they don't know what they're talking about. And so you have to be really cautious with who you're listening to.
Yes.
I had a
Yeah.
patient come see me this week, and she said, I don't understand why men are given estrogen. And I said, well, they're not. They're given anti-estrogen products because if they get too much testosterone, it can convert to estrogen. And she's like, no, no, this Instagram person said we're giving testosterone and estrogen. And I said, no, that's not how this works. She had no clue what progesterone was, and she had been on hormones with me. She thought she was taking estrogen and testosterone because of the color of the containers. And she wasn't even educating herself properly on what's going on with her own body. But she was listening to this Instagram person who was telling her all the wrong information about estrogen and progesterone and in this anti-estrogen movement these days. And I had to, nicely try to educate her. But I really want to encourage people that if you're going to follow someone on social media, make sure you're following somebody with credentials. Don't just follow
Yes.
somebody that thinks they know something about it, because you're going to get a lot of misinformation.
Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of that.
We are.
People are looking for a fast fix or a fast result, and they go, instead of looking to the experts, they just go by some Jane Doe on the internet that
Yeah.
has no clue, probably can't even define what a woman or a man is. And that's a whole nother issue.
Yes, it is.
So what are some of the most common signs and symptoms that someone might have a hormonal imbalance,
Yeah.
especially those that
Well,
often mistake for stress, aging, or normal fatigue?
yeah, right. So hormonal imbalances actually start quite early for us as women. It starts around age 35. We will start to lose progesterone, which is your very calm, euphoric hormone. Makes you just kind of go, whatever. Who cares? I can roll with things, right? And that's when women are going to start to be labeled with anxiety, depression, insomnia. They can't sleep. They have a lot of broken sleep at night. A lot of women get heart palpitations and heart racing. They'll get jittery because they don't have enough progesterone. They're got plenty of estrogen until they're about 45 or 50, but that progesterone dip makes them estrogen dominant. And so they start getting these kind of symptoms. They feel perimenopausal or PMSy all the time. Like they're irritable, they're moody, they're snapping at the kids. They're getting this weight gain around the midsection that they can't get rid of. They're not sleeping well. They're not thinking well. They're irritated by people all over the place. And so what happens? You go and you complain to your doctor about that, and they give you an SSRI, an antidepressant. And they say, you're just stressed. You've got the kids, take this SSRI. And then we create a whole lot of other problems because we're not really looking at what's happening to the woman. And then when we do labs, if you're working with a conventional doctor, they're just looking at the labs inside the normal range. They're not looking at your age, the ratio between that estrogen and progesterone. Are they balanced properly? Where are you in your menstrual cycle? That makes a huge difference when you're testing hormones. Are you in the beginning? Are you in the middle? Are you at the end? We always want to test in the end, like that week just before you get your period, because that gives us a good idea of where that balance is. And some women will even start to see some irregular bleeding at that point. They'll be skipping periods, or their periods are really heavy, then they're light, then they're early, then they're late, then they have more PMS and less PMS. So it really becomes a trying time for that about 10 years between the onset of this and the onset of menopause.
You've spoken about how misdiagnoses are common among women. How
Mhm.
often do you see hormonal issues being dismissed or misattributed to anxiety or depression?
Oh, a ton. Like, I've treated thousands of women in my career. We've treated over 15,000 women in my practice. And I would say a good guesstimate, 75 to 80% of those women were misdiagnosed. And it was really just a hormonal issue that was causing their symptoms.
Just off topic for a moment, I'm watching some old TV shows from English, British shows,
Yeah.
and in olden days, we were always crazy. They would put women in psych hospitals
Yes.
because they were crazy, and it's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yes. My great grandmother was institutionalized. I found this out when I was doing some genealogy quite a few years ago. And they institutionalized her at about 48 years old. And I looked at my aunt and I said, that was just menopause. And she's like, yeah, but they didn't know what to do with them back then. And so they just put them away because they couldn't deal with them. And
I
that is so
I
sad.
see it's a common thread in a lot of the old shows, and I'm like, "Lord have mercy, how awful for those women," and
Yeah.
they were fine, they just had
Mhm.
hormonal imbalance, and
Yeah.
nobody knew about it.
Nobody
Oh,
knew about it. Yeah.
and a lot of men got rid of their wives that way when they got tired
That's
of
true.
so
That's
bad.
true.
Can you explain how hormonal imbalances contribute to chronic illness such as autoimmune disease, thyroid disorders, and metabolic
Oh, absolutely. So, one of the problems that we see today that I've not seen before in my career is young 20 and 30-year-olds having hormonal issues. Like, I see young men in their 20s when their hormones are supposed to be at their peak, which would be right around 800 for a guy, right? I'm seeing those men with levels of about 200 to 300, that of what I would have seen in the past of a 70-year-old man. And for women as well, when we get ill with a chronic illness, and these are people that are healthy, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with them. They're just having low hormone levels. But when your body's in a chronic illness state, it's going to burn through these hormones faster to try to correct the metabolic imbalances. However, when we don't have enough hormones to start with, which we're seeing because of our environmental issues, right? All of this estrogenized food, we're putting steroids and things into our animals to produce larger qualities of milk and bigger mass and all of that. It is disrupting the hormones. So I think it's twofold, actually. I think we're starting out as young people without enough hormone, which is creating chronic illness. And then you have the chronic illness that you're using up all of those hormones to try to get your body to do what it's supposed to do. So it becomes a double-edged sword and is really problematic. We're seeing much more autoimmune disease these days. And as a result of that, then we're seeing hormonal imbalances occur. And trying to get those hormones back for those young people that are so sick is really a challenge because you have to really push those levels high enough so that they don't end up with bigger problems down the road. Like a 30-year-old that has low hormones, that's when they're supposed to be having all their good bone growth and laying down of good bone between like 15 and 30. And so when they don't have those hormones there to begin with, by the time they're 50, 60, or 70, they're going to have more bone loss. They're going to have more problems. They're going to have less estrogen in the brain for women. They're going to have less testosterone on their muscle mass and their bone structure. And we're going to see much earlier age related things happening because they never had the hormones to start with.
Now, cortisol, insulin, thyroid, estrogen, and progesterone
Yeah.
all play critical roles in our bodies, but they also interact with one another in some way,
Mhm.
right? How one hormone being out of balance impact the rest of the system.
So think of a very fine-tuned orchestra or symphony. When you're missing your key violinist, you're off key, right? It doesn't play the same. Hormones are exactly the same way. When one key hormone is off, the rest of them are trying to work to balance that out, but they're not able to do it. A good example of that is cortisol, right? Cortisol is our friend. We need cortisol. It reduces inflammation. It gives us energy, motivation, makes us get up in the morning and be like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Now, too much cortisol's not a good thing. It creates too much insulin. It makes us have weight gain. It keeps us up at night. It makes us anxious and jittery and wired. And so that's a bad thing. And you tend to have a overabundance and underutilization of that hormone throughout your life, right? So when we're in a stressful situation back in the day, right? A tiger would come out, you'd fight the tiger, you'd go back to the cave and you'd retreat. You'd get cortisol to fight the tiger, you'd go back, you'd rest, you'd retreat, and that cortisol would settle back down again. The problem in today's world is we are in that constant state of fight or flight. Our young people are burning the candle at both ends. They never get a chance to rest. College kids, they're working, they're in sports, they're in school, they're trying to keep up with their friends, they're doing all this stuff from 5 in the morning until midnight. They're getting not enough sleep to rejuvenate themselves. And then we think that's the American way. and it has been for, a long time, but they don't know any different. And now they go into young adulthood and they're in college and they're pulling all-nighters to study and same thing. And so they're burning on all this cortisol for a period of time and it's getting them through until the body just says, you know what? I've got nothing left to produce for you. So then the cortisol falls and we have just the opposite problem. Now we're fatigued, our brain's not working. We kind of are presenting like we're depressed, but we're not. We're just really burnt out. And now we're gaining all this weight and we can't lose any weight. Our metabolism is off. We want to sleep all the time. And so now we've got that problem. And so we're kind of up and down with this cortisol piece. And everybody's saying cortisol is a bad thing. So suppress your cortisol. Well, if you don't have any cortisol left to suppress and we suppress it more, you're going to feel worse, not better. So all these hormones have to be in alignment with one another, or you're not going to feel like yourself.
I want to explain to my listeners out there, caregivers often live on chronic, ongoing stress to the point
Yes.
where they're really out of whack.
Mhm.
63% become seriously ill or even die before the
Yeah.
person they're caring for. They neglect their own health.
Yeah.
They don't understand why they're eating, gaining weight, those types of things. And it's because of the cortisol.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We see a lot of caregivers in our practice too, and they're more stressed than the sick person they're taking care of. And if they have to take care of somebody for 4 or 5 years, and I've dealt with women in this position where they've taken care of mom or dad or both, and they thought it was going to be a year and it ended up being 5 or 6 years. And they lived with them in the house, and mom and dad is up all night wandering. They're getting out of the house. They're turning the stove on in the middle of the night. They're afraid they're going to fall. So they're always listening. They're never really asleep. They're always just listening for them. When that person finally does go to be with the Lord, their bodies, the caregiver's body, just it gives up. It's just like, whew, I'm done. And they are so flatlined that they really now think there's something seriously wrong with them. And it's really just that they're exhausted, they're burnt out. We have to rebuild them, we have to rejuvenate them, and they need time now to rest and repair and heal. And it's really important that caregivers do that because otherwise you will develop some kind of illness that will require somebody to take care of you if you don't take care of yourself.
I actually lose 2 to 3 caregivers a year to
Wow.
or serious illness, and they can no longer provide care for their loved one. So
Yeah.
it's very real. Now, in
Mhm.
functional medicine, Dr. Deb, you focus on root causes rather than symptoms. First of all, I love that.
Mhm.
What are the most effective lifestyle changes or interventions for restoring hormonal balance naturally?
Sleep is number one. We have to get people to sleep. So, and not just laying in bed and thinking we're asleep, right? We need that good restorative deep REM sleep. That is first and foremost. And then really feeding the body, giving the body nutritious food, not fast, quick on the go food that kind of fuels us for the moment, but doesn't fuel the body for what it needs. Nutritious whole food, that's really important. Organic whenever you can, especially in the things that are really bad. So I always tell people, organic is really expensive to do all of it. If you follow the clean 13 and the dirty dozen, I think it's now the clean 15, but euw.org, they have a list of the dirtiest whole foods that you want to stay away from or buy organic if you can. And those are the ones I tell people, spend your money on those organic foods. The other ones that are pretty clean, we don't have to worry about so much. But that's really important to get yourself that hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. We need hydration. Most of us are dehydrated. That's really important to make sure that we're getting that. And then I would say after that, then you want to really feed your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands are key. They're the two small nickel-sized glands. They sit on top of your kidneys, and they give you that fight or flight response. They produce the cortisol, the DHEA, some other hormones, but they need to be regulated, especially as a caregiver, because when you're burning the candle at both ends and you're constantly giving to somebody, whether it's a child or an elderly parent, you need to fuel yourself. And this allows you to be able to kind of burn the candle at both ends without completely depleting yourself. And it'll maintain those hormones for a longer period of time so you're not crashing out.
Fascinating. Now, what role do environmental toxins and endocrine disruptors play in hormonal imbalance, and how can people reduce their exposure to those?
It's huge. So all of the artificial chemicals in our environment are considered endocrine disruptors. Some are just dirtier than others. So think about all your cleaning solutions, all the things that we plug into the outlets that make our houses smell better, the Lysols, the sprays, the floor cleaners, our perfumes, our chemicals we put on our bodies to smell better. Those are all chemicals that disrupt the endocrine system. And if we disrupt that endocrine system too much, we're creating thyroid problems, we're depleting the progesterone, the estrogen, the testosterone. So those are all big major players. Secondarily to that would be EMF, electromagnetic field. And when that electromagnetic field, so your cell phones that we keep in our pockets, that we keep on our bodies, those things are going to disrupt the hormones as well. Unless you have a case on them called a safe case, that
Mhm.
helps block that EMF. Don't ever put your phone on 5G. Always use the lower level because that 5G is really, really bad for the body and it's disrupting every cell in the body. And it is a known endocrine disruptor. And so when we have those things present, we're not only moving the hormones in levels that we don't want them to, but we're also triggering different autoimmune conditions as well. And that's why we see a lot of thyroid issues, a lot of other autoimmune conditions that affect the hormones themselves. So really important to have clean cleaning products for yourself and clean body products that you're using.
I can't stand smelly stuff. As a nurse, I was a student nurse at Children's Hospital in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh. We had an 8-week rotation. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
And I saw a student nurse go into her patient's room, and he went into
Mhm.
an asthmatic attack. She
Yeah.
left and to get somebody, and it's to settled down a little bit, but it was still,
Mhm.
and she came back in and it got worse again. I mean, so, that's when I learned you don't wear perfumes, you don't
Yep.
wear anything smelly, not even it's hard not to wear hairspray or
Yeah.
anything because, we put stuff in our hair, I was blonde until I stopped coloring it, and
Mhm. Mhm.
so I have to ask you, a lot of my caregivers want something to help them sleep, so they want
Mhm.
sleeping tablets. How does that interrupt their health in any way?
It does. So it gives them an artificial sense of sleep. It's not giving them that good restorative sleep. It's turning off their mind and allowing them to get to sleep, but it's not restorative sleep. So we can use natural things, things like ashwagandha, magnesium, L-theanine is really great for your caregivers. I mean, L-theanine is nature's Xanax. So it's not addicting, it doesn't make you sleepy, just kind of takes the edge off. You can use it up to 800 milligrams a day. So you can use a lot of it. And it just kind of helps to calm you and make you not be so anxious or worried about things. It helps you turn your brain off at night so that you can get some sleep. Because as caregivers and as women, we worry about everybody, right? And as soon as it's quiet, our brain tends to take off and start thinking of all of our to-do list and the people we need to think about. And that's what keeps us up a lot of times. So that can be really helpful. Ashwagandha is really amazing because it's an adaptogenic herb. And so if the cortisol gets too high, it brings it down. If it gets too low, it brings it up. And it is very calming and soothing and helps you sleep as well. So it is a great thing to use before bedtime as well.
I use magnesium, but I'm gonna get some ashwagandha.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it. Well, I actually am very blessed. I sleep pretty good. I have chronic pain. Every once in a while, I move and the
Mhm.
pain wakes me up, but I'm very blessed at 72 to still have the majority of my nights are good sleep, good
That's
solid
awesome.
sleep. Yeah, not everybody can say that. Now,
No.
we women, we have hormonal changes through our different stages of our life.
Mhm.
Puberty, pregnancy,
Mhm.
perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause.
Yes.
How do women prepare for or better manage these transitions?
Oh, I love this question. First and foremost, people need to understand that hormones are not stagnant. They fluctuate moment to moment, day to day. So your symptoms can fluctuate like that as well. And I like to have women track their symptoms with their cycles. And for a lot of women, this seems kind of odd, but once you're postmenopausal, There are some women that will still say, I feel like I'm cycling. Like right around the time I used to get my period, I still feel like I'm doing a little bit of this. And I think there is some reality to that because your hormones, even though they're lower, you still are making some. You're just not making as much because your ovaries aren't producing them and the adrenal glands are trying to kick in. So tracking your hormones is really great. You can get an app or a calendar and just write down some of your symptoms and look for patterns when you're menstruating of when your symptoms are occurring in your cycle, because that tells you a lot about which hormone is being affected. So when you have your period, that first 3 days, we have very little hormone present at all at that point. And then after about day 3, the estrogen is going to start to rise until mid cycle. So if you get a period every 28 days, about day 11 or 12, there's a hormone called LH that's going to start to rise, and that's what's going to make you ovulate. And that one goes up and comes down really fast. And then progesterone really doesn't kick in until after you ovulate. So for the first about 12 to 14 days of your cycle, you're pretty dominant in that estrogen side. Progesterone's very low. Once ovulation occurs, progesterone comes up and actually stays up until just before you get a period and before you bleed. And then it kind of shoots way down. And so when you're tracking your cycle and you're tracking your symptoms, you can start to see patterns of what's happening with those hormones if you understand where that is. And especially when you start to enter that perimenopause phase as well, your cycles are kind of all over like they were in puberty. And so knowing where you are and knowing what your symptoms are can help. A lot of women, when they're perimenopausal, they'll start to get hot flashes and night sweats just around the time that they're getting their period. A couple of days before their cycle, they'll get hot flashes and night sweats, and it'll be covers on, covers off, leg out, leg in. And they don't get the full flushing, but they get those kind of symptoms that occur. And so understanding that that's happening can give you more information that you can take to your practitioner and have that conversation with them about exactly what's going on for you.
Yeah, I have girlfriends that have these awful hot flashes and hots
Mhm.
and get and sweats, and they have to
Mhm.
actually get up and move to another bed or
Yeah.
change the bed in the middle of the night. I never
Mhm.
had one hot flash. I don't know why, but
Mhm.
my body but I had great pregnancies too. I never got sick. I felt
Mhm.
great. It was afterwards the babies came that it was hard.
That's for sure. About 13% of the population of women will have hot flashes for the rest of their lives. They will never go away.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
How what an awful thing to live with.
Oh, it's terrible for some women, really terrible.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For my listeners out there, Dr. Deb, who are living with chronic illness, what message of hope would you share about the body's ability to heal and find balance again through a functional medicine approach?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that question. You know, the body is resilient. It is not meant to attack itself. It is not meant to betray us. Our environment has created that part for that to happen. But if you can get with the right functional medicine person that's looking for the root that caused this illness to occur in the first place, and you can get appropriate treatment for what's happening, the body can really repair itself. It can take time, and we usually say for every decade you were sick, you're going to need at least 1 to 2 years for the body to heal. So it's a slow process. It's not a quick process. But nonetheless, the body can still rejuvenate itself. It can still heal. There are studies that show if a appendix was removed, but it wasn't removed in its entirety, the body can start to regrow that organ again. We
Oh,
know the
wow.
liver can rejuvenate itself and heal itself with the right supplements. I'm not going to say medication, the right supplements. The liver can start to actually repair and create new healthy liver cells. So the body is amazing at what it can do as long as we know what's causing the insult and we can find the right thing to get it to heal itself. So don't give up. Just you have to find the right person to work with.
Deb, can you give us an example of what a good functional medicine doctor, what you would look for in them?
Mhm. So I would say first and foremost, it is individualized. You want a functional medicine practitioner who is going to listen to you, someone who is going to partner with you, and someone who understands and accepts where you're at. First and foremost, I think those are key. Secondarily, I think you need to have a functional medicine practitioner who truly understands your disorder. Not every functional medicine practitioner has been trained the same way. They don't
Yeah.
have the expertise. So you don't want to take let's say a Lyme disease person. If you have Lyme disease, you don't want to go see somebody who only treats the gut or only treats thyroid. You don't want that. You are looking for a functional medicine person who is truly holistic, somebody as a whole. They're going to look at your body as a whole, because the last thing we want is another expert in one particular thing. We already have that in conventional medicine, right? You've
Exactly.
got your pulmonologist, your radiologist, your endocrinologist, your GI doc, we've got all of them. But you need somebody that's going to look at your body as an entire whole and that has an understanding of all of those aspects from the functional medicine standpoint.
That's one of the things that the biggest thing that I've noticed is the change in the specialization of our physicians, because
Mhm.
when I went into nursing in the dark ages, I did orthopedics when I first got out, and they had an orthopedic surgeon would do any bone in your body, and they would
Yeah.
take care of you. Now you've got somebody for the hand, somebody for the hip, somebody for the shoulder, and it goes on and on.
Mhm.
And you really miss a lot of things. In fact,
Yeah.
when I go to my pain management doc, I have to ask them because they'll say, rate your pain. Well,
Mhm.
I need to know what pain you want me to rate because is it from the last treatment or what
Mhm.
I'm experiencing today? And it's very confusing because I've been told, some pain management docs, that I don't want to know about that pain right now. This is the one I'm focusing on. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Right?
And it makes me crazy. So,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
really a challenge that, nobody's putting all of this together. So if you've got shoulder pain and hip pain and arm pain and neck pain and lower back pain, do we not think they're all somewhat connected? But why do you have to see an individual specialist for each one of those parts of your body?
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
It is, and it frustrates me
Mhm.
as a nurse that helps people through the medical delivery system, navigate it, and I'm a
Mhm.
care manager, and, I know what they should be doing, and it makes me crazy when the physicians refer to somebody else instead of addressing it right there. So we
Yeah,
really have lost. That's why I think functional medicine's the best way to go for anybody right now.
I
Dr.
agree.
Deb, how do my listeners find you?
So you can find me on social media, Deb Muth or Dr. Deb. I also have a Facebook group called Seen at Last. It's a free Facebook group for women, and men can join too, but it's primarily a women group of women who feel like they haven't been heard and they're looking for their tribe of people where they can communicate and share, and we can whine and complain and support each other and do all the things
Yeah.
and that we need to help each other out. If your listeners are looking for ways that they can learn more about these things, I'm really excited. I have a new platform coming out in the next couple of months called Venari, and it is going to be a platform where, much like ChatGPT, but my knowledge base, my education, my protocols, all of the things that I've learned over the last 25 years have been trained in this app where you can ask a question about your healthcare. You can ask a question about your symptoms, and you will get a completely functional medicine approach to how I would deal with that. And so you will be able to utilize that and get any answers that you want about functional medicine from that app. And I'm super excited to have that launch. I have a website called venari.com. If you're interested, you can sign up as an early adopter or get more information when it comes out. But I'm really excited because this is going to put functional medicine in the hands of people who don't have access to a functional medicine practitioner, can't
Yeah.
find one in their area, can't afford one, but you're going to be able to get access to one of the best in the country and all of the information that I've learned and all of the people who've been so gracious to train me over the years, all of the big names. And so I'm really excited to be bringing this out.
And spell Venari for my
Yes, it's Venaari.
Okay. I will put that in the show notes and on the permanent page we create. Thanks, Deb, for your time and your sharing. I appreciate this. I've learned some things that I didn't know in my 50 years of nursing. So I really do appreciate that. To my family caregivers out there, you are the most important part of the caregiving equation. Without you, it all falls apart. So please learn to be gentle with yourself, practice self care every day because you are worth it.